Good evening. I would like to call to order this meeting on Wednesday, September 7, 2022. If we could all stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. We bow our heads. Father God, we thank you for this time that we have before us. We thank you for all of those who've come before, who've poured their wisdom and life into this city. We ask that you guide us with your wisdom and your way as we do the work for our people. In your son, Jesus' name, we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start, City Clerk Atkinson, is Mayor Pro Tem on virtual? Do we know? She just wanted to make sure. Okay, can we move forward with the approval of the agenda? I will now hear any changes or a motion to adopt the September 7th regular meeting agenda.
The agenda as presented.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. We will now move on to appointments to the Urban Redevelopment Agency, and my appointment for that is Mr. Zach Farrell. Now we will be moving on to our public hearing. We will have public hearing on new alcohol and beverage license. The first business we have up is Schroeder's Market and Officer Brown.
Good evening.
Good
I
evening.
am here presenting two new businesses, two new stores that are applying for a new alcohol license. I have not had any record of anything on their background that would not give them an opportunity to get consideration from the commission. And they are here today. I also have the chairperson of the MPA for Midtown here for one of the stores.
Perfect. I appreciate that. The first one we have up is Schroeder's Market, and we have owner Nikki Schroeder and maybe manager Maggie, or is that Madison Schroeder? I apologize. Yep. And the business address is 203 Gloucester, and it is for retail sale of beer and wine.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, we're up for our licensing. We'll be selling beer and wine in our grocery. So we've got a grocery plan for 203, and we want to have an array of beer and wine along with grocery products. And
I appreciate that. Want to first off say thank you for choosing Brunswick as a home for your business. And I appreciate the fact that you are focusing on a wide array of market availability for fruits, vegetables, and other things that the community can buy in a downtown area that continues to be growing. So we appreciate that. Usually the only base question I have is, have you met with your local MPA?
yes, we have.
Wonderful.
Back in May.
Perfect. And that was a good meeting for you?
It was fantastic.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. Any other questions from the commission?
We're hoping to be open by mid-October. Construction's going strong though. What all will you offer? Overall for the store? Yeah, we would have a butcher, baker. We would have seating for grab and go, lunches, sandwiches, salads. We would have regional produce. Then also your regular groceries like your rice, your pastas, jar food. Oh, thank you. I know, sorry. You'd also have your grocery staples, and then some specialty market, cheese, charcuterie, things like that.
She's interested in milk is what she wants.
We will definitely carry a great array of milk.
That's what we need. We
Okay,
need
lots of milk. We will carry all of those, and we'll be also making a lot of bread in the house.
Any additional questions or comment? Hearing none, we will now open it up for public comment on the alcohol license for Schroeder's Market.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Lance
Good
Saby, 1110 Prince Street. I want to say as a member of downtown, we're super excited about the Schroeder's Market coming to our community. As Nikki stated, they did make a wonderful presentation to the MPA meeting. And I dare say there was a round of applause when they start talking about the products they were going to be carrying. So I'm in 100% favor of this beer and wine license. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Mr. Saby. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we will now close that period and open it up for a motion from the commission.
I'll make a motion that we approve the new alcohol license for retail sale of beer and wine for Schroeder's Market located at 203 Gloucester Street.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those against, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you much. We will now move on to Lotto Mart 341, Manager Deep Patel, address 2432 Newcastle Street, retail sale of beer and wine.
Good evening, everybody.
How you doing? Good evening.
Good. It's my cousin. I'm speaking on behalf of him
Okay.
because he's not good at English.
No worries.
I hope that's okay.
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Right. So it's his first business. He's trying to build something for himself and his family, and we are hoping it would do good. And we're here to help him. And we just need your permission to sell alcohol and beverages.
Perfect. The first question I always start with is, have you met with the local MPA that you'll be?
I'm sorry.
Have you met with the MPA? The
We
neighborhood planning
did
association?
call him
Okay.
and he asked us to meet here, but he was unaware of why we wanted to call him at the first place,
Okay,
because I think he was confused, and
Mhm.
we agreed to a moment that we meet here and see how the meeting goes first.
okay. And so you've been in contact with the head of the MPA, but hadn't had a chance to present to the full neighborhood planning association?
No, sir, we just got his number on the website
Okay,
and we try to reach him out that way.
okay,
And looking on the website, their meeting was on the September 27th or something.
Uh-huh.
And we just, because this is our first time, so, I was trying to help him. So we didn't know what to do, where to go first.
Mhm.
So he was like, just go ahead and attend the meeting and see how it goes first, because he was also confused, like, why you guys are calling me.
okay. Okay, perfect. With that, I will open it up for questions from the commission. Additional question from me, is this an individual LLC or is this an LLC connected to other stores in the city?
Individual.
Individual?
And does it include Sunday sales or just Monday through Saturday?
It would include Sunday sale after 12:30.
Is your location across from the marina?
Yes, sir.
They did. They got a. Yeah.
Not have red eggs in milk. Just tell him.
Is the location right? Has the store been closed for, like, the building been closed for?
It has been closed for past 6 months, I would say.
Can you please tell us what else will be sold in the store?
Basically groceries, sodas, lottery. We would have most of the fishing items as well for baits and stuff. So people could use for bait and stuff.
What about bread, eggs, and
Yes,
milk?
everything.
Okay.
Any additional questions from the commission? We will now open it up for public comment, and I think we have the current MPA president of the MPA you tried to reach out to. Good to see you, Commissioner.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the commissioners. For the record's sake, I was not confused. This was just the first time I was ever called, excuse me, based on the approval of alcohol licensing. So I was not confused. Just wanted to get clarity. And he called me when I was in Iowa a couple weeks ago. And when I returned, we talked today briefly. He has been trying to contact me, and I have informed him that our meeting is this Monday, which is the 12th at 6 o'clock. And I was make sure he would have that information. Now, my only consideration would be is that we have some churches in that area and also the residents and our town or midtown residents have not been notified fully yet. And I think that we should have a good, proper meeting. Me personally, as the chair, I cannot represent everyone, but I will make this known that I believe we got enough alcohol establishments in the city, but I'm only one person. So I think it should be brought before everyone. And also, I don't want to stop or neglect the economic development for our city if they're going to do proper business. That's my response.
We appreciate that, Commissioner. Any other additional comment from the general public? Seeing none, that portion is closed. We will now open it back to the commission for a decision in any type of motion. I will say, and I always make this statement, it is my belief that all those who bring alcohol licenses before the city needs to meet fully with the MPA before there's any type of vote from the commission. And without meeting with the MPA, I know my vote would be a no, but I do open it up to the entirety of a commission to either bring it forward as a vote or postpone it until you all are able to meet with them.
Mr. Mayor, my recommendation would be to defer this item until the applicant has had an opportunity to speak with the NPA. So I would not move to do an absolute denial at this present time, but to allow them an opportunity to go forth and speak with the NPA. So that would be my motion to defer it until such time as they had an opportunity to speak with the NPA.
Appreciate that. We take that as a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Appreciate you. With that, it closes the public hearing portion, and we will move on to items to be considered for approval. Consider approval of August 17, 2022, public hearing and regular scheduled meeting minutes. City Clerk Atkinson, or we will open it for a motion.
What'd you do with item 2? Excuse me.
Zach Farrell. Zach Farrell.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Consider approval of financial reports as of July 31st, 2022. Director Mills.
Okay, you have before you the July 31st financials, which is the first month of the fiscal year. So basically, we don't have much in the way of comparison, but for the general fund, we had net expenditures over revenues of $300,000. And of course, that's the same for the year-to-date figure, which is once again, not unusual for the month of July. We will start seeing property taxes rolling in within the next couple of months. We have cash on hand of approximately $6.8 million as of July 31st. Loss distribution for the month of July compared in 2022 compared to July 1st is, or the year ended July 21, is 8.36% increase or $65,000. Total ad valorem tax was down $4,000, which equates to a negative 12.03%. On the next page, you have SPOS 5, and we still have the $1.4 million approximately that has been designated to go for the ladder truck for the fire department. Norwich Street Commons, there's been no activity in Norwich Street Commons other than interest that was earned, and the balance in that account as of July 31st is $338,000. Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center has total revenues of $64,000, expenditures of $27,000 for a net of $36,000, and we have a cash balance in that fund of $5,000. I just realized I skipped SPOS 6, but I'll go back to that. I'll go ahead and finish this page and then go back to that. I'm sorry. The ARPA fund, you'll see total funds received as of July 31st, $9.2 million. We have dispersed $262,000. We have allocated amounts for many of the other projects. However, those are allocations that are not set in stone. Those numbers can be changed. They're not appropriated. They're just allocated at this point. And we continue to get new guidelines from the federal government on how those funds can be spent. So far we've spent $262,000. So we have almost $9 million still available in ARPA, but have allocated it to certain areas. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back. I was on the back side. Skip that. On Lot 6, you look at the middle of the page, you'll see we have a little over $3 million still in SPOS 6. You look at the first column, total amount we've expended on SPOS 6 projects, approximately $18 million. That includes money that we received from other sources like joint projects with the county or the JWSC, and money that came in from the DOT and other places. The amount of SPOS 6 funds that the city has actually expended are in that middle column, approximately $14 million. And there are still a few projects ongoing that we're still currently paying for. Okay. The sanitation fund. We have total revenue for the month of July, which is also year to date, of $131,000, expenditures of $137,000 for an operating loss of $5,800. But once again, we're only collecting small amounts that people have not previously paid, mostly on property taxes, and then some of the small amounts that we get for monthly fees. So that will be turning around shortly. We have a cash on hand, though, of $264,000 in sanitation. Prime South, we have restricted for the landfill, $195,000. Trash pickup, as you can see, is $128,000 for the month of July. Illegal refuse, $3,900, and street sweeping, $11,358. Those numbers are in line with what they normally are. Stormwater utility for the month of July and year to date for the current fiscal year are $5,339. We spent $48,000 for a net deficit of $42,000, but there is cash on hand in that fund of $631,000. Additional information: no funds on animal control or traffic control expenses. For the aquatic center, we have spent $3,500 to pay for a new pump installation. That is the deposit, and it's 50% of what that will cost, and the rest of it, I think, is being paid this month. Roosevelt Lawrence Center, $14,090 in personnel costs, total cost $14,291. And that's basically financials. If you have any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
Yeah, I've got one about the Roosevelt Lawrence Center. You've got a lot of overtime there.
Okay, I think that mostly what that is we were paying the summer help. And that's why that's there.
It just
Summer's
goes in
over.
Under that category.
But this was as of July, so we were still paying at that point in July,
Thank you, Kathy.
but those will go away.
My question. And I didn't pick this up when we were reviewing this in the finance committee. Sanitation bill, you're showing, July 2022, 127,000. Is it for the, that's a typo.
127, that's for the pickup, trash pickup.
Mhm.
It runs about $127,000 a month.
So the year to date, okay, because we're just doing for July. Oh,
Right,
okay.
so it's just the month, yeah.
I forgot we started a new fiscal year. So everybody needs to see how much it costs us to pick up trash a
Yeah.
month, almost $130,000 a month.
It is, yeah. It's runs pretty much the same.
They get a good deal though. That's, yard debris too, so it's a good deal.
I just want to point out the cost.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, we will now entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the financial statements as presented.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Mills.
Thank you, Kevin.
We'll now move on to item 6, consider approval to finalize the acquisition of flood property located at 3204 Rosewood Avenue. Director Bravo.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you. Here, the reason why I'm here is basically to request approval and the purchase of the property at 3204 Rosewood Avenue for $143,000. To give you a little background in the story here, the original application was submitted to FEMA back in 2019. For 3 years, basically the 3204 through the mitigation process. They've seen different city officials, were told different camps and different, and they've been very patient. And I think at this point, the right thing to do is for this family is to basically pay them what is the $140,000 and let the city mitigation comes with it. Request 16 2022.
Director
You can see there
Bravo.
that the
Director Bravo?
Office of City, I'm sorry, yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Hello,
You were
hello.
going in and out a little bit there, so I don't know if that's your reception, but maybe try
Can-
to stay in one
Can
place.
you hear me now?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay. So out of the, if you see a letter that we submitted with a request on August 16 of 2022, that letter basically is reference to an amendment that we submitted with city manager due to the fact that the property was, the appraisal, the value, the market value of the property went up. Originally was valued at 102, ended up being valued now at $143,000. We amended the original approval and they approve it. So as you can see in the August 16, 2022, those are the assurances that FEMA and GMA are gonna pay us the fair share of their part of the contract. To be honest with you, at this point, paying the property owners the money that the value of their property, I think it makes a lot of sense than having them going through the entire mitigation process that can take months, you know, since it was sent to us. The other reason too is you can see that the property was flooded 3 times in the past. They've been very patient. They've been working with us, but I really gonna be honest with you, at this point, I think the right thing to do for this family is to purchase the property and move on and let us deal with the. Thank you.
We will now, Director Bravo, I just want to make sure you were finished.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Good deal. We will now open it for questions from the commission.
It's taken a long time to get this done and, over the years, I've talked to the folks that own the property quite a bit, and they have put up with a lot to get this done. They really have. So they were flooded out before Matthew, and I know the history of the house. I know the neighbors out there. And this has been a problem, and it's time that it gets resolved. It really is. It'll be a great thing for the Eastview neighborhood also to have this blight out of there. Because nobody's lived in the house since Irma. It's been.
That is correct.
Thank you, Commissioner Case. And just a quick question, Director Bravo, and you may have said it and I missed it. After acquisition of the property, what is the plan for the property?
We have a timeline with city manager in which we're gonna get with GMA and FEMA and basically work out timetable in which part of the process is to demolish the property. We do have to do an environmental assessment, obviously partner with GMA and FEMA. And once we finalize everything, then they'll be able to reimburse the money that we pay to the property owners. So we already have a process in place.
Plus, Mayor, this is City Manager McDuffie. After that, it will be, green space and owned by the city, but we don't have any specific plans for use of the property at this point.
This would probably be a real good thing to take to the neighborhood planning association and let them be part of it.
And one quick question. Is what I'm hearing, Director Bravo or City Manager McDuffie, the city is doing the demo or the demo is reimbursed?
It's being reimbursed.
Yes.
But the city does have a local match that we, have to pay for the whole process.
Perfect. Thank you. Additional questions?
Well, I have a question. Is it feasible to rebuild a house on the property, but raise it up 2 to 3 feet above flood level and resell the property?
There are limit, when you go through the mitigation process, there are limited things that can be done once it goes through this process.
Okay.
And Brian, if I'm incorrect, please follow up, or Regina, that it can only be used for green space or some other specific usage. But I don't think that you can rebuild another home on that property. I had made a suggestion that because that is such a flood prone area, that perhaps it could be a runoff, capturing of the water in that area or something to that effect. But again, it'll go to the community to make that decision. But something that will enhance the ability to capture those waters as they come in, perhaps could be into consideration in this process as well.
Commissioner Harris, just to emphasize your point, you're correct. My understanding is that FEMA and GMA expects us not to build any type of structure on that piece of land due to the fact that it is prone to be flooded anytime it rains or we have.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from the commission?
And we did discuss in the meeting as well that there were other potential properties that did not make the cutoff this time, but city manager, you want to make comments regarding that?
Yes, the initial application was for 5 properties, and 4 of the properties did not meet the GMA FEMA cost benefit analysis for this process. We did ask them to resubmit those properties, and they have, and we would have to look at what the status of them is at this time. But we're still hopeful that, there will be some resolve for those properties as well.
Thank you for that. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the acquisition of the flood property located 3204 Rosewood Ave.
Here to first.
Second.
All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Bravo.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, City Mayor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7, consider approval of agreement with Georgia Safe Sidewalks for safety improvements of concrete sidewalks within the city. Director Charno.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Got before you tonight a chance to get some of our sidewalks put down.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And the reason why we went through this process, we didn't want this to happen to another family. We lived there for 14 years and enjoyed the property. It's a nice place, but I do not recommend building anything there. Like you said, a flood, I think would benefit the rest of the neighborhood to put some kind of flood mitigation, system there to drain off in there, because when it's high tide, every one of those drains are full. If it rains hard, the church gets it, the neighbors get it, and it's just right up the door. So maybe that would help prevent someone else from going through this situation like we have been for years. It's flooded probably 3 more times since we've been through this process.
Right, right. Well, we appreciate you all. We appreciate your patience. We know it's been a process, and thank you for sticking it out with us.
I
Thank you.
apologize for not recognizing you back there, but it's been a long time since we met. A long time. I do apologize. I really do. You bet.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Director Charno.
All right. This is for your consideration. Georgia Safe Sidewalks has a process to level out uneven areas in sidewalks. Many times sidewalks are just have uneven areas from tree roots and different things, and they can take care of those offsets and bring them back where they're level again. And that's what they propose to do for us. We've had them do this several times since about 2014, and they've always done great work for us. The areas that are being considered are going to be Altama Avenue from R Street to Spur 25, Parkwood Drive from Altama Avenue to Highway 17, Newcastle Street, US 341 from G Street to 7th Street, which is the city limits there, and Reynolds Street from I Street to First Street. So these are large areas that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to do replacement. So we're proposing that we let them go and take care of these trip hazards. Anything in excess of 5/8 of an inch and up to 2 inches, they can mitigate and take down where there's no more offset and they're completely level, eliminating the trip hazard and the ADA issues that we have there. The cost of the project that we are recommending is $34,530. That will remove the severe trip hazards along the sidewalks listed. And the cost of the project is budgeted in fiscal year 23 general fund budget for public works under streets and sidewalks. 3 different options. You can authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Georgia Safe Sidewalks in the amount of $34,530 to complete the sidewalk trip hazard removal project. You can obviously not authorize us to do this, or you could take no action at this time. And Public Works does recommend that we complete this project for $34,530 and make these areas safe. Now, take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Director Charnock. Any questions from the commission? Hearing none, I do want to say thank you for the work you've done in recognizing some of the places that there are trip hazards. I know I run, we're becoming a more bikeable community.
Yes, sir.
And so as we become a better multimodal community, I appreciate the work that you and your people have done to figure out these spaces. If there are no questions, we will now open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement with Georgia Safe Sidewalks for safety improvements of concrete sidewalks within the city as has been presented.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you.
Director. We will now consider approval of in-kind support of Liberty Tree Planting Project, City Manager McDuffie.
Okay, I am just going to introduce this project. This project was initiated by Forward Brunswick, and it basically is a planting of 99 trees in commemoration of the Liberty Shipbuilding that took place in Brunswick in 1941 through 1945. Very historic project. The part that the city will play is just in-kind support of the project for plantings that are done on city property. This has been reviewed by the tree board and was approved at their meeting. Lance Saby is here to speak upon, other aspects of the project.
Appreciate you, City Manager. Mr. Saby, good to see you again.
You as well, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here on behalf, again, as the Executive Director of Forward Brunswick. And as Ms. McDuffie has mentioned, wanted to give you an update and on the Liberty Brunswick Trees Project, as well as hopefully seek your approval for the locations on city property that we're proposing. To talk a little bit about the project, I'd like to first introduce Ms. Michelle Shields. She's one of our board members and is chairing this project. So I'd love for her to share a little bit about her passion about this project, and then I'll talk more details about it.
Welcome, Ms. Sills.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and the Commissioners. I'm happy to be here to talk to you about a project that really means a lot to me. While I've been here, my family's been here for quite some time. What people don't know is that my grandfather was in Louisville. One of my grandfathers lived in Louisville, Georgia, and he came to this area to work at the shipyards during the week because he could not find work anywhere else. And so he worked here during the week and then went back home to see my grandmother on the weekends. And so that's how he was able to take care of his family. And this project is very important to me because of him and because of that legacy in my family. And not only that, because of the work that so many people pulled together to help make Brunswick be a major part of the war effort at that time. For those people who couldn't go to war, this was their opportunity to be a part of that effort. Black, white, and women were a part of this. And so this particular project not only helps to beautify the city of Brunswick, a place I call home, I grew up in, continue to live in. It also is a place, it's also a project that we can look back on and help our children see the great things and the great stories. That's the part that I have enjoyed the most, is learning the stories of various people and groups who helped make Brunswick what it is today. The Liberty Shipyard was the J.A. Jones Shipyard and the Liberty Harbor. That area was so important to Brunswick. And so I wanted to be a part and spearhead this particular project because I know what it meant to Brunswick at that time. And it was probably one of the glory days of Brunswick. And so I'm very passionate about it, look forward to it coming to fruition, look forward to the city considering supporting this project. Thank you for even considering.
Thank you, Ms. Sills.
As you can tell, Michelle's a little excited about this project, almost as much as me, right? But I just wanted to give you a couple of highlights and kind of what we're asking for you this evening. Remember, beautification is one of our major strategic objectives for Forward Brunswick, and this is kind of one of our signature projects that we're working on this year. To give you a little bit idea of the scope of the project, we're estimating this project's going to cost us approximately $150,000. Currently, we've raised funds of $78,500. That's both cash and in-kind donations. We actually have a wonderful partnership with Coastal Granary, and they've done plenty of work in the city for y'all in the past. They'll be donating the install of all these trees. We're also working in combination with the Brunswick Housing Authority, Keep Golden Mountains Beautiful, as well as many other partners. Michelle mentioned a little bit about the stories. That's one of the things. We're not just sticking a bunch of trees in the ground. We want to communicate the message of Liberty, the shipyard. And so the Historical Society, as well as some help from the college, will help write some stories. And you'll see some wonderful interpretive signage, very similar to the ones that we have at signature squares at these different locations that trees will be planted. So what I'm looking at for y'all today, I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed locations. I don't think right now, we need to go through everyone in detail, but I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you see any locations that you would like to see added, we're happy to consider that as well. Again, remember, we have about 30 trees that are going to be on city property. The other trees will be at locations like the hospital and the college and some private property as well. So it's a collaboration. And again, these are spread out all throughout the city.
Thank you, Mr. Savy.
Yep.
I know you've briefed most of us on the project for a little bit, and I know there's been some work done. I know you've worked internally with the tree board and kind of moved it through the correct process in the city, and we are thankful for the investment of yourself, the time of all of you all, Ms. Seals, as well as all of those in Forward Brunswick to bring this to the city. So we appreciate that. And we will now open it for questions from the commission.
This may have been somewhere, Lance. But what is I know the specific number has been designated as 99.
Yes, that's correct.
What is the representation of the number of trees in correlation to Liberty Harbor?
Yep, that's a great question. So there were 99 ships launched from the shipyard. And so they not all were Liberty ships. There were also some additional not ships, but that's how we got to that number of 99. Sometimes I kind of want to round it up to 100, but trying to match history.
That's a real good historical moment to capture.
Yeah, yeah. And it causes people to ask questions, which is great, and gets them to start thinking, and it gives us the opportunity to start telling some of the story.
So will there be like, I know when we spoke there, you said there would be like markers. So would there be markers in representation of the specific ship, or the representation of the tree to the ship, or how is that going to be designed?
I don't think it's going to be specific to the tree or the species of tree.
Okay.
It's more about telling the story, and hopefully how the location of those trees that are planted, how that potentially could relate to the shipyard. And so we'll have one large marker that's, again, the same size as signature squares at what we're calling kind of each location or grove. So they won't have an individual marker for every single tree, but at each location that has trees, if that makes sense. And then phase 2 of the project is we look after they're all planted and they're dedicated, we'd hope that we hopefully execute a website and potentially some sort of mobile application that people, if they wanted to, as they're bidding the city, could look up those trees on a mobile device and then travel around and visit them all. Great question.
The reason why we chose to go with stories, because we wanted to be able to tell the stories of people. For example, one of the particular stories may talk about hotbeds, where people went to the shipyard and worked during the day while somebody slept one place. So then they switched up while the other person went to work, because I feel like for children in particular, that speaks volumes to who they come from. Our children need to read the stories about how great this city is and what they come from here. And I think those types of stories to show that hard work, to speak to the entertainment that was at Selden Park and who went there and why, and how women played a part during that time. Our children and our community need to see that. They need to read those stories and know those stories. That's why the places that we chose were so important to me, because I walked every one of them on a day. I took a day off to walk them, so that I wanted to know, can kids get here and be able to read this? Is this a safe place for kids to be able to walk to? If it wasn't safe, I said no. I didn't want it to be there, because I felt like it needed to be in a place where children can read it, where families can go and eventually be able to navigate and be able to see. They can walk with each other in the summertime and read those stories, something for them to do. As an educator, that's important to me. So that's why we went with that versus just going with the individual ships, because we feel like there's several stories we can tell, and we wanted to be our children and our community to be able to read that. And as we talked about it being a bikeable community, a place where they can ride through our city to be able to see and read those stories of Brunswick. So that's why we went with that. I hope that answers the question.
Perfect.
And the culmination of the stories, have you all considered or thought about a culmination of the stories? I know Liberty Harbor is the place, but bringing together like a combination or something symbolically. Yeah.
I think that definitely could be part of the phase 2 component. A couple of the grant requests that we've submitted are multi-year grant opportunities. Phase 1 obviously is get them planted and get some stories done and some signage in the ground. But I think there are some opportunities as we look forward into year 2 and 3 to help enhance, and as the trees grow, maybe this program continue to grow.
The Downtown Development Authority's got enough history to probably write a book. Several years ago, members of the J.A. Jones family came to town. You were there, weren't you, Lance?
I was.
Yeah. And so there's lots of history here that we can write. And I'd like to say too, that I appreciate doing this. I made that trip down to that building when it was called Babcock and Wilcox for 20 years, every day for 20 years. And I was one of the last 3 people in that plant when they closed it, and helped to get the B&W out of here. And I had no idea that plant, as powerful as it was for this community when it was operating with anywhere from 600 to 1,000 people out there, that it would not be back to some form, shape, or fashion of that. And I can tell you how much it meant. It meant people came from not only Louisville, Georgia, when it was a shipyard, but people came from almost every county with 120 miles of here to work at Babcock and Wilcox. And that's the kind of thing we need to look for again, just exactly. But one of the things I want to mention to you, something that's not out there anymore, was there was an old wooden building out there. I don't know how many thousand square feet that building was, but it was large enough that they actually, during the shipyard days, would lay the ships out on the floor. It was an oak floor, and they would actually lay those ships out.
Wow.
Right down to the keel, right in this building called the Moloch. And that's where I started off working out there when I got too smart to finish school. And it means a lot to me to do this. And I'd like to see what I'm leading to is a real statement going down 4th Avenue. You've already got it going down Albany Street. You've got a good coverage there of trees, but you don't on 4th Ave. And out on 17 out there would be a good place to remember what all went on there. And certainly the park that we're developing out there is so important to do.
Yeah.
And again, I appreciate so much what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Casey.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And your story brings up a point that I haven't made yet this evening, but on our website, if there's anybody else in the public that has stories they'd like to share, there's a great link on there. They can go in and leave some stories that, and we'll reach out to them to finalize some information and stuff.
Appreciate you. We will now, if there are no more questions, we will now open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Liberty Tree Planting Project.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 9, consider approval of mural project at 503 Mansfield Street. City Manager McDuffie.
Again, thank you, Mayor and Commission. This project is again one that hopefully will be significant historically for Brunswick and bring significant attention to the history of Brunswick, which as the young lady, and I didn't get her name, but she so passionately talked about, certainly, it's so impactful to people's lives, and sometimes we don't recognize it, unless things like this are brought forward. But anyway, this is a project that was presented in regards to 3 murals that are planned by Living Walls. And one of them will be on, or is requested to be placed on the 503 Mansfield Street. Again, I thank you all for allowing this to be added to the agenda after it was originally formulated. But this is, again, another project that, has no budgetary impact. It's basically just asking us to participate by allowing these murals to be incorporated on the city building as well as 2 other properties. And this was approved yesterday by the Historic Preservation Board. Representatives of Living Walls is on the call virtually, as well as the artists. So I'll allow them to make comment at this time.
Wonderful. If they can come to the front, are they present?
I think they are on virtually.
Oh, okay.
Hello, this is Sheila Pre-Bride. I'm the artist that's doing the murals. Can I share my screen so I could show the people the murals?
Thank you. We have the capability to do that.
Okay. And this project is really about me working alongside the Brunswick community. And I was commissioned by the New Georgia Project that's based in Atlanta, Georgia, in Living Walls, and to produce 3 public art murals here. And like the young lady was talking about before about stories, this is about honoring the past and building the future. And it's about Miss Georgia Gibbs, where in the 1960s, she co-founded the local NAACP, and she became the secretary. And she brought a young man from Alabama, Reverend Hope, to be the president of NAACP. And what they were able to accomplish was to desegregate Brunswick before the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And I feel that is very important because a lot of times generational, so we do not know really our history. In order for us to move forward, we need to learn of our past and move forward. So these murals is about Reverend Hope and Miss Georgia Gibbs. So I'm able to share my screen. Oh, you got it? Okay. So this is the image right here. Are you gonna go all the way down of 503 Mansfield, where this is Miss Georgia Gibbs? And I incorporated images that I took on the 50th anniversary of Selma. And she was 75 years old back in the day. She was not a young woman at all. And this is Reverend Hope, Reverend Julius Caesar Hope. And so what we're going to do is I'm a photographic artist, and we're bringing another muralist, and she's going to translate my photographs into a photograph by spray painting. So do anybody have any questions? And this is a 3rd mural that's going to be at Ahmaud Arbery Park. And I wanted to bring communities together to create awareness and bring shared communities together. And so I thought about James Baldwin. The quote that he has is like, not everything that can be faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed into its face. And the young child is symbolic to Ahmaud because he loved to run, and running is about resilience and moving forward.
We appreciate the work that you've done, the time that you've spent in our community. I know it was great meeting with you while you were down here. So thank you for all of the time and effort that you've put into bringing these historical references to our community. I will open it up for questions from the commission.
I've got a question for our attorney. Brian, are we doing something here with public buildings that is opening doors that might bring stuff that we don't need? And I apologize for not saying something about this, so you would be prepared, but I wonder, we're talking public buildings, particularly 503 Mansfield Street.
Sure, I understand. I don't, nothing jumps to the top of my head that would give me pause on the project, but I'd be happy to look into it, and do some research on it.
That's the only question I've got. I'm for it. I want to be sure that, that we're not, doing something that is going to open doors or close doors or, again, it's a public building.
I don't see anything gratuitous about it, and that the city would be getting consideration back in the form of, artwork. So again, nothing jumps to mind, but I'll be happy to look into it.
Thank you.
That's the way I can understand this question. If they want to come, they understand because only public build on the city-owned building. How do you address that?
That's all I've got.
City Attorney Corey, quick question for you. If anyone else was to come and wanted to, obviously people can do whatever they want on their private buildings, but if anyone was to come to us with a public building, it would go through the same process. And so it would be to the discretion of the commission, and the commission would have to have the discretion to make a decision on whether it was appropriate for the community.
Right. I don't see this as a use or advertisement or anything like that. Nothing of commercial nature. I see it more of a artistic or cultural arts type use. So that's why I say I don't believe to be gratuitous in any means, but I will do some research on it, but nothing jumps out to me.
Wonderful.
And yes, it would need to follow through the same process and procedures that this project is following.
Perfect. Any additional questions from the commission? Hearing none, I will now open it for consideration.
I'd like to make a motion to consider approval for mural project at 503 Mansfield Street.
Hearing first, do I hear a second?
We need to approve each someone here. Because
No, I just think one is 503.
You would only be addressing the one at 503.
Yep.
The other are
it's a
private.
city property.
That's correct.
Yes,
Okay.
the other property is owned by my church, and then we have someone here to speak. Ms. Collins.
Why?
Good evening, everyone. Anita Collins, Brunswick, Georgia. My question is, we have local artists. Have any local artists been consulted by the New Georgia Project? Nothing.
Yes.
Nothing
Yes.
against the person.
Yes, Roderick, one of the artists that's from Brunswick, is participating in this project.
Okay, you didn't say that. So I mean, with all due respects, we just want to make sure our local artists are being considered because they're starving also. Thank you.
Yes, they are.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. We do have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. But Commissioner Kaysen, we will continue to do the research to make sure we're acting inside of all of our legal realms and guidelines. Appreciate that. We will now move on to city attorney's items. Number 10, discussion of proposed ordinance number 1075, urban camp. City Attorney Corey.
Mayor and Commissioners, what you have before you is the first reading of the draft ordinance 1075. I'm going to share my screen. Earlier this year, I was approached by members of the city police department, as well as speaking to some of the city commission in regards to an urban camping ordinance. Working with several people that were interested in getting this ordinance passed on city staff. We looked to similar ordinances in Atlanta, Georgia, Rome, Savannah, and Cleveland, Georgia. What you have before you is sort of a compilation utilizing different provisions of those ordinances to put together what would be entitled, the City of Brunswick's Urban Camping Ordinance. I believe you all have had that. I think I tried to send this out a little bit earlier than normal to give the commission the ability to sort of take a look at it and address any concerns, any questions that might come along. So you should have seen there's a set number of definitions regarding camping, public areas, storing personal property, inappropriate use of public area, interference with ingress or egress, and then it goes into the prohibited acts section, which basically states that no person shall camp in a public area. I think primarily this ordinance is being pushed through the police department is having some issues regarding not only people that might be camping or inappropriately using public spaces, but there's also the issue of property that is left over and abandoned in those spaces and what to do with it. So what this does is it prohibits certain acts in regards to public areas, and it also provides authority for our code enforcement or police department to, I don't want to say confiscate, but essentially dispose of what has been deemed abandoned property. There is a component in there that requires a verbal warning be issued before there is any sort of punitive act taken under this ordinance. If the verbal warning or the warning that is issued is ignored, then of course they can act within the confines of the ordinance. It does as in any other ordinance that prohibits public contact in the city of Brunswick, it would assess either a fine or an arrest. So there will be discretion to either issue a citation, to come to municipal court, or in the instance of if there's a need and it's in the officer's discretion to make an arrest. There are obviously exceptions if there's a local emergency, a person laying or remaining in a public area or park, if they're blocking ingress. Of course, if there's medical or some sort of emergent situation, that would be an exception. Any authorized use by the city commission or any of its boards or agencies. And then generally speaking, if there is somebody just sitting on a bench in a public park, we're not going to come through and move them out. That is essentially in a nutshell the first half. It's before you tonight for discussion purposes only. If the commission desires to move it forward, the city clerk will advertise it in the paper to try to receive public comment. And the second reading would be later this month for approval if that is the will of the commission.
Thank you, City Attorney Corey. Thank you for the work that you've been putting in on it. I know it's something that the commission and you have been working on for a little bit. And so we're glad to see at least it be at the starting point and move through the process. Any questions from commission?
I know you've been working on this. I know that there is a public outcry for the necessity of such an ordinance. I have a question regarding the issuance of a citation versus confinement, and how that would be worked out. Because if we're talking about homeless people, if they get a citation, what's the financial means to pay the citation versus confinement? And so those are some of the things that I think we kind of need to take a look at, because in my perspective, you're going to have a lot of confinement, because I don't really know how much, how many citations would be paid from this. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. There is a definite need for this. So I'm for it. So I'm going to just put it on out there on the table that I am definitely for this ordinance, but I am also for how we would move within this ordinance, because it's a need. I mean, we have it out there, and understanding that this is not a fix all for homelessness. So we need to make sure that's understood. This is not a fix it for homelessness, but this is a deterrent for the for what's been going on in it, the degradation of property, the acts that have been being performed, and some of the things that have need of being cleaned up because of certain things that are happening within our city, and understanding that while we are a caring commission, we still are responsible fiscally for the upkeeping and the safeguarding of city assets and city residents' assets. So we have to be cognizant of that. So I just want that to be said, and to be known that we've got to do something about some of the things that's taking place and some of the things that's happening.
And if I could, I think that you've hit on a lot of things. Okay, I'm sorry. Just to address some of the things that Mayor Pro Tem Harris said, with regards to the citation, one of the reasons that there is a verbal warning built in is to try to avoid that kind of vicious cycle of rolling down the hill, in the hopes that a verbal warning or a warning being issued on the forefront, you'd hope that compliance would follow with the ordinance and that you could avoid whether or not you're making a determination as to issuing a citation or making an arrest. It is an ordinance violation, so if there is concern of an arrest, it would be a misdemeanor charge, similar to any other misdemeanor charge located in the city. It would only require them to be processed at the jail, and then they would probably be OR'd or go through the bond process and released back out. We did have a lot of internal discussion as to what discretion needs to be afforded when you're working within the confines of this ordinance. You know, and just some of it is going to have to follow through with common sense of how is the best way to enforce this. Let's try to avoid any sort of cycle or, you know, just processing, and then try to avoid the costs incurred by the city if you do process that through. My hope is that with other code enforcement or municipal court citations, oftentimes we sort of say that we are seeking compliance, most of all, compliance with code enforcement violations, and we would hope that compliance with this as well, meaning just making sure that the violation is ended and does not continue to occur.
So because there's a tendency of repetitiveness in this process, and is there with our law enforcement, our workforce being as it is strained and stretched already, and a major, I won't say a major, one of the contributors to this being the homeless population that has migrated to the city, and understanding this, and I'm gonna say this for public consumption. They are migrating to the city because the services are in the city. Spread the services out of the city and let's spread it around the entire county. And we will be able to start to mitigating. That's not a solution to that. So please don't take it that Commissioner Harris, and I don't want to see it in the Brunswick News saying Commissioner Harris said move them out the city and the services out the city, and that will mitigate homelessness. That is not my statement. So please don't have it be misconstrued as such. But there is a fact. It is a fact that people are going to come where the services are afforded to them. And if all of the services for them are in the city, guess what? You're going where you can get the services. And so we've got to move within this problem that we have. And it's not being blamed on anybody. There are circumstances that are lending themselves to this problem that we have. It's not specific to the city of Brunswick. It's not specific to the state of Georgia, but the consideration thereof is that all of these services are within the city's limits. People are going to come to where the services are afforded to them. So when we're talking about homelessness, we're talking about this problem. It's not just a city problem. It's a county problem, but it's more noticeable in the city because the services are in the city. And so I'm going to come where I can get service. But with our police force being strained as they are, now we've got to move into some type of sensitivity training so that this will not present a problem for them moving forward in enforcing this ordinance. How is there some rehabilitation component built into this? Is there some other solution mindset that's built into this ordinance? And so understanding that even with the adoption or the incorporation of this ordinance is not just a city elected officials problem. It is a community problem. And so we've got to tackle this problem as a community. And everybody has a fiscal responsibility, not just us sitting up here on this dais. We all have a fiscal responsibility as a community to come together and address this problem. I'll say that I'm done.
I'll say amen to that.
Well, I'll carry it a
I
step
believe
further
it's
in
a
that
community problem. You're right.
services are not fully meeting the needs of the homeless population. And I think we all realize that we have two different groups, if you will, of homeless folks. We have those that are homeless because of a significant event, the loss of a job, a spouse, a cut in pay, something significant that then places that person or that family out on the street, so to speak. They need some help within the community to get back on their feet. And we have a wonderful network of nonprofits that know how to deal with what those people and those families need. Then we've got the chronic homeless that primarily have other issues. They're homeless because they've got addiction issues, they've got mental issues, and they're chronically homeless that we don't have the services to meet fully the needs that they have. And this is what we see pervasively in our community, and it affects everybody. It's become a really big issue for property owners, people living in the area, visitors. I'm not going to go into all of it, but the services don't provide for the needs of those people, but they keep gathering. And so I think that's a huge issue. I think this will give us some parameters to where the police can effectively move those folks on, but all you're doing is, moving the situation on. So this is not the end all, because there's the so what, if they are constantly in violation, trying to find a place to sleep every night, then, I think as Mayor Pro Tem said, how are they going to pay anything? They don't have any money, or are they going to go at the taxpayer's expense and spend a night or two in jail? And how is that going to look going through our courts, our municipal system? So I think some of that needs to be thought through further. But I think this, as a draft in updating our ordinances, is important and is a good step. But it's going to take the whole community, because it's not a city problem. It's a state and national problem, and we all need to work together to come up with a solution that works better. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to work better.
Any additional comment or question from commission?
Yeah, I'd like to ask, Ryan, you say you got your template for this from Rome, Savannah, and Cleveland?
Yes.
Cleveland. Did you take a survey to see how successful they've been with the ordinance? Has it worked?
I spoke to.
Has it served a purpose?
I did speak to the city attorney for Rome, and he did indicate that it has served a purpose. I did speak to the city attorney for Rome, Georgia, and he has stated that the ordinance has served a purpose. Rome is similarly situated on waterfront. The river cuts right through the middle. I think they primarily had problems with those that would set up on, there's a river walk, there's trails that cut through, those types of things. And that's where they're primarily were trying to address those situations.
That's great.
Yeah, I think the other big issue is the amount of time that our police force, is having to be called out. I read the crime stats every day, every shift, and the number of calls related to either the well or homeless folks is staggering. It just is staggering, and it's runs the gamut, and we really need to figure out something.
Brian, it's in here that we can confiscate the personal property.
If deemed abandoned.
If
Once,
deemed
if there's an issue where there has been a violation discovered, or if there is an issue where in the officer's discretion, the property is deemed abandoned, yes.
And, I just want to bring into this the fact that not only do we have this to consider, but we've got a panhandling problem also. And I know for a fact that the law does not allow us to, if a panhandler has been out on Highway 17 there at the causeway like they are able to, we put them in jail, but then the money that has been taken up out there in the middle of the highway, we cannot confiscate. That sort of seems like you and I talked a little bit about that too, and perhaps that's something we need to look into with this.
Okay. Happy to do
It's
so.
it's just not this one singular, it's all over, the panhandling is all over. It needs to be looked at too.
That's good. Back to you, John.
The only other quick thing I had was the exceptions, which is section 16-97. That would cover, for instance, in Howard Coffin Park, the sale of Christmas trees where somebody's actually camping overnight.
To
Watch the inventory.
correct, that would be what I would consider to be an authorized use under those exceptions.
Where they've got a permit to use the park.
That's right.
the public side.
Yeah, I think that's spelled out pretty good in here, that it specifies if there has been prior approval. And
Right.
so I think that's spelled out pretty good in the ordinance.
Right.
By the property owner.
Right.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we appreciate you, City Attorney Corey.
So I would ask if there is consensus that the city clerk advertise for any public comment, and then we will bring it back in 2 weeks.
I'm good with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Before we move on to executive session, I want to take a moment of a couple personal privileges. One, to recognize it is a lot of work keeping up with 5 public officials. It's a lot of work keeping up with our city government, and our city attorney Atkinson does it amazingly well. And today, city clerk, we upgrade, you know what I mean? City Clerk Atkinson does it amazingly well. You make it look easy. You make it look beautiful. So we appreciate you, and we want to say happy birthday to you.
We told the mayor he needed to sing happy birthday.
God did not bless me with a voice. He didn't do that. And with that, I'll now turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Harris for recognition.
We wanted to recognize a staple of our community who passed away today, Miss Annie Polite. Miss Polite passed away today. For those of you that knew her or didn't know her, she was a go-getter. She was also my soror, Delta Sigma Theta. Let me just throw that out there on the floor. For all the AKAs in the house, I'm just bothering Miss. But yes, Miss Polite passed away, and so we wanted to honor her and recognize all that she has done in this community. Miss Polite was, I don't even know, what's she, 90 something. I know she was 90 something.
She was here.
Dolores, can't hear you. 93. I know she was somewhere in her 90s. But we wanted to recognize her. She marched faithfully during the trial of Ahmaud. And there's so many other things that she's done in the community. That was not her coming out. That trial was not her coming out as a community activist. She has been active in this community since I was young enough to walk around in this community. And so she will be dearly missed. And when we first started, I know you all that come to the meetings faithfully, you would see her in the meetings before she got to a point that she couldn't really attend them as she desired to attend those meetings. But she'd come up here on her cane, or she'd come up here just like a little fireball and set us straight and let us know if we overlooked something or missed something. So I just want to let the family know and the community know that we were grateful for the time that she imparted wisdom and put fire under us to keep us moving, to participate in the community, and gave us a show and a demonstration of what it truly meant to care about your community and have passion for your community.
She attended a meeting here also within the last 2
Yes,
months, and-
yeah, yeah.
And she got up and acknowledged that she was here and said her piece. too.
Yes, definitely. Always gonna speak her piece. So we just wanted to take that opportunity to recognize her.
We appreciate that. And thank you, Ms. Polite, for being here as well. With that. Yeah, you can-
And I also just want to take this opportunity. We have some of the distinguished members of housing here with us on this evening. So I want to take that opportunity. We have the director and we have the chairperson of the Housing Board of Commissioners. So Mr. Kitts and William Baker. We have Mr. Kitts, Mr. Baker, and you all can introduce who has come with you on tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Let me first introduce the interim executive director, Mr. William Baker, who is a fireball, just say that much. He's a great guy. We've done excellent. No, you gotta come and introduce everyone else, please. And great guy, very happy to have him at the Brunswick Housing Authority.
To the commissioners, to the mayor and the commissioner, I want to thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be before you in each and every time. I would like to lead off by saying that we want to extend our relief. We're looking forward to working with you in any way possible. And we are just as concerned about the homeless population as well. With all the employees and staff and contractors, please stand. I have to my left, I have Ms. Edwards, who's the grants, Brooks Brothers Policy and Procedure, Mr. Duke Edwards, actually State Representative Duke Edwards, contractor, Ms. Kim Ogden, she's over our maintenance, and of course our finance is Ms. Dyer, Mr. Cooper, right now security, and Ms. Joyce Cooper, who's also housing director. We have a task before us. We're willing and ready, but we need the city to help us address our issues. These issues have been around a long time, but we're not afraid of this task. And we're ready we are rolling up our sleeves, but we cannot do it we're looking forward to working with the new administration, with the mayor, and I'm so excited about it. So we're ready to get to work. Thank you all so much for your time and for this moment.
Thank y'all for
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I think we will now take a motion to adjourn for executive session for litigation and real estate. We will now open it for a motion.
Make a motion that we adjourn to executive session for real estate and litigation.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor, show by usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned for executive session. We are back from executive session. No action was taken. We will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor, show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.